Hey everybody, daily update for February 11, 2021. Um, Continues to be cold this week, and so kind of keep that in mind. Take care of yourselves, your animals, and all those around you the best you can. Um, be safe. We have been kind of going through some odds and ends of things about the scriptures here in the last few days. And here's one that's a little bit, I find kind of a combination of both interesting and somewhat disturbing, I guess you would say. Um, we seem to have allowed our language in this country, especially, to fall to a lower common denominator, swearing using words that were oftentimes, at least in the time I was a child and before, were pretty, you just wouldn't say them in public. Once in a while they'd slip out, I suppose. But people were offended by these words, where now they're becoming relatively commonplace, especially what we would call maybe the big one. And that's kind of changed with our culture. I don't find it a comforting change, but I find that it's something that is being relatively universal, and you see that in both television and movies. You see it in some forms of music, more predominantly in others, but to use what we used to call vulgar language seems to be quite common. In fact, there's allusions to certain song titles that have those kind of connotations and so on. And maybe it doesn't bother people too much. To me, it's a little bit. It bothers me to some extent, because I just think it takes some of the civility out of society. But I guess we're all entitled to our own opinions. But one of the things I was going to bring up about that is that, there was a time period where vulgar language, and especially taking God's name in vain, was considered incredibly offensive. In fact, there was a lot of places, including this country, where using God's name in vain, you could be fined a significant amount of money. In fact, on my research, I found one place. There are several places where that's still on the books, especially in local communities, as I understand. There's one place where using a certain phrase with God's name in a derogatory fashion would cost you a fine of $50 and a night in jail. I don't know how readily that was enforced, but and maybe it's something to think about a little bit. Do we lift ourselves up to a higher standard in our language than try to raise everyone's standard of civility and use of language that's not considered as offensive as some other things? Or do we all go to the lowest common denominator? Something to consider. I guess it's one of those social issues that is, if it's tolerated, it's tolerated, and there's little we can do about it other than just choose to not participate in those type of activities if that's our choice. All right. Well, y'all take good care of yourselves, watch out for others, and stay safe. We'll talk to you later.